fellow graduates of the class of 2007, parents, other family members, and friends. I would like to thank the MTHEA Graduation Committee for the great honor of speaking on this memorable occasion. On behalf of my fellow classmates, I would also like to thank every parent who has had to relearn algebra, chemistry, fractions, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, SQ3R, and all of that other once easy but suddenly challenging subject matter. It is because of your diligence and care that we are here today. Imagine you're at the mall. You've had a long day of shopping. You're tired and ready to go home. Your bags are so loaded, your fingers are throbbing, and your feet are in desperate need of elevation. But just as you're about to head for the exit, having just grabbed a sugar-coated pretzel from the stand, you see someone coming out of the corner of your eye, holding a piece of paper in one hand, a friendly smile on their face with a pen extended. You try to quicken your pace, but they're too fast and step in front of you. What do you expect from yourself? They ask. You look down. They hand you the paper. A simple survey entitled, "Are you afraid to touch the sky?" On it, there are 3 boxes from which to choose. You smirk, but your amused smile quickly vanishes as you study the paper. Everything, something, or nothing, the boxes read. What do I expect from myself, you ask? Which would you check? If I had a clock to time you with, how long would it take you to check a box? Would your pretzel be abandoned, your bags dropped, and feet forgotten? Or would you quickly jot anything down without a second thought? What do you expect from yourself? Everything, something, or nothing? Are you afraid to touch the sky? I've always been afraid of heights. I was the kid on the playground who had to take a few deep breaths and mumble fervent prayers before downing the good old metal firehouse pole. And I remember laying in the grass in my backyard, looking up at the expansive sky and thinking, God, why is it that I can't fall into the sky if it's right below me? After all, the sky does seem to hover beneath you when it's all you can see. It seems so far, yet so close you could touch it. My mom answered that question soon enough, and the answer was, of course, gravity. That thing that astronauts defy, birds chuckle at, and John Mayer could buy a Cadillac off of. Gravity has been fought for centuries through attempts to construct planes and wings to jets and rockets. We conquer this powerful force because of the mere aspect of curiosity, and perhaps the calling to overcome the seemingly impossible. But in order to even dare to achieve such feats, man must have once expected him to be able to do so in the first place. After all, God made work what it is for a reason, a challenge to overcome, in order that God may show us what he can do through us. But after we dare to dream, we have to then dare to expect. Dreaming is more than what you do when you sleep. It's also been penned with the definition of a sort of appealing goal which causes us to smile and hope, making our hearts skip when it crosses our minds at work or during homework. But as pertinent as dreams are, we often fail to see that they are only the beginning, the mere seed of something greater. Benjamin Franklin must have dreamed at one point in time. Something must have caused him to wonder what would happen if he flew a kite in a storm, because you and I both know that it wouldn't have been us out there doing something that dangerous. After all, we already know electricity exists, right? Christopher Columbus also dreamed of a round Earth and set sail on perilous journeys to prove it. But would you do this to prove that point? Hopefully not, because you've seen photos of the Earth from outer space. And what about building a plane like the Wright brothers? Would you do it to show all the world that man can take flight? Probably not. A good few of you might have flown out here by plane this weekend. So I have to ask, what is it about certain dreams that makes them fact? Isn't it interesting to note that many dreams and aspirations are of things that will come to pass or already exist? Why is that? What do you expect from yourself? Everything, something, or nothing? Are you afraid to touch the sky? Time is ticking by quickly now, and you're starting to sweat over your survey. You don't have an answer. That is not an honest one. How can you choose everything when you know you're not planning on applying for that job or studying for that test, starting that eating right plan or opening that dusty Bible? What do you expect from yourself? Everything, something, or nothing? Are you afraid to touch the sky? When you drove here this morning, you moved along roads, paved and finished, streets which construction workers have already completed for you. You didn't worry about the church existing on an island because you expected it to be reachable, attainable. And yet, I wonder if you could say that about your life, the path to your dreams. Have you ever tried to picture it as though it were a single road on a plane extending into the horizon? You probably couldn't see the end clearly, but you knew it was there. After all, every dreamer, whether their dream shifted over time or remained the same, has ended up somewhere. But what happens if you don't dream? If you shy away from expecting something, hoping for something, anticipating something? What do you expect from yourself? Everything, something, or nothing? Are you afraid to touch the sky? Have you ever heard that God can only steer a moving car? You see, that applies to dreams. We may have dreams, but if we never take action to pursue them or get our cars moving, then what is there for God to steer? Maybe we should examine why people are afraid to pursue their dreams. For example, many young people are afraid to dream because of, get this, the mere fear of success. Oddly enough, as good and wonderful as success is, it's also intimidating. And for this reason, a lot of people don't even want to think about it, but would rather that it fall into their laps in a few years or so. Being sold out for Christ is an example of this type of intimidation, probably landing at number 1 on the top 10 list of things that intimidate teenagers. Besides, if you plan on living until you're 100, you might as well put off the challenging or uncomfortable things until later, right? What do you expect from yourself? Everything? Something? Or nothing? Are you afraid to touch the sky? Now, having spent a good 5 minutes considering these questions, you take a seat at a nearby mall bench, the words on the survey paper jumping out at you. But suddenly, there's something written at the bottom in fine print, something you must have missed before. It reads, "There is no right or wrong answer. It's a survey, for goodness sake." But if there could be a right answer, it would not be to expect everything, not even something, and certainly not nothing of yourself, but rather, it would be to expect anything from the one who created you to walk the path he's already paved for you. After all, he's the one who drew the map. You set the paper down. You stop. You think. You put the neglected pretzel on hold. What do you expect from yourself? Greatness? Failure? An okay ending? A happy ending? Maybe it's time to expect anything that's good, any dream given you by God. As the Marianne Williamson quote goes, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us." We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. And with God's translation, "For we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." Ephesians 2:10. What do you expect from yourself? Anything? Everything? Something? Or nothing? Are you afraid to touch the sky? One day, a man walked into a cartographer's shop, looking to have a map created. Inside of the shop were beautiful maps hung on the walls. Some of the maps were big, others small. Some had many streets and intersections, and others were simple. As the man waited for the cartographer to appear from the back room, he studied the maps carefully. and soon noted that each one had its own X marking a particular spot. Puzzled by this, the man wondered why the marks were there. After all, this wasn't a treasure map shop, was it? Before the man could consider any further, a voice sounded from the back room. The cartographer appeared. "What can I help you with?" he asked. The man stroked his chin, then replied, "I would like to have a map made, but first I'd like to know your credentials and exactly why you have X's marked on each map. Is this some kind of treasure map shop?" But the cartographer only smiled. "You could say that this is a treasure map shop, since each map leads to treasures. And as for my credentials, take a look at each map. This one, for example, was made for a client who was a songwriter. He was the youngest of many brothers, and when he followed the map, it led him to victory over a giant, a job as the government's top musician, and later his own ascension to the presidency. And take this map, for example. I made it for a girl who came to me, an orphan, living in a country that was not her native land. I mapped a path for her which led to winning the title of Miss Persia, marriage to a mighty president, and eventually saving her people from a would-be terrorist attack. If you're still in doubt of my credentials, let me show you this map, the one I made for an atypical young man, an outsider. He wasn't at all popular, wore clothes that others considered to be funny, and ate strange things. I drew a map for him that would usher him to proclaiming the coming of the world's greatest hero. But that's not all. I made a map for a riches-to-rags man with a stutter, leading him to admiration and the role of guiding a large nation out of captivity. And of course, there's the young woman who was poverty-stricken after her husband died. When she followed the map I gave her, she married a rich man and started a family. You see, you are right in assuming that my maps are treasure maps, because they each hold an X marking the spot. But it's always up to the person following the map as to whether or not they find the treasure. My maps are easy to follow, and all you have to do is stay on the right path in order to reach the treasure. The cartographer finished, and the man quickly requested a map of his own. But when he expected the cartographer to ask him to come back in a week or so for the finished product, the cartographer only smiled and brought out the map, already finished and mapped, marked from his desk drawer. It had already been created even before the man entered the shop. God is the ultimate cartographer of every life, yours and mine. He marks each map with an X, indicating the treasure awaiting us. Your treasure may be a career as a doctor, a lawyer, a singer, an actor. It may be an answered prayer, a scholarship, a job, an idea, a business. God knows your personal X, and if you follow the path carefully, you will find your marked treasure. So what do you expect from yourself? Better yet, what do you expect from your cartographer? Do you expect anything from him? Everything? Something? Or just nothing? Do you question his credentials like the man in the shop? For those of you who are afraid to touch the sky, consider this. If God paved it, you can walk it. And as you graduate and move into another season of your life, don't expect everything from yourself, since everything can weigh you down and burn you out. And don't just expect something either, since you're a child of the Maker of all. And certainly don't expect nothing, since you're loved by a caring God. But rather expect anything, and don't settle for the sky being the limit. Because when it all comes down to it, the only one who has the true say-so on your future is the ultimate cartographer with the pen and creativity which puts even Tolkien to shame. Not peers, not generational trends, not even your own fear, if you let it, can erase what God has already mapped. So what do you expect from yourself? Are you afraid to touch the sky? Fellow students, graduating class of 2007, I say we shoot for the stars and touch the sky on the way. Thank you.